Hi, and welcome to our second bonus episode talking with film producer Jon Peters. Last time, we talked about how Jon went from running his own chain of hairdressing salons to dating Barbra Streisand to producing a hit album with her and beginning his filmmaking career with A Star is Born, and then embarking on what would become one of the most improbable producing careers in all of Hollywood. By all accounts, that's sort of where this crazy story should have ended. The history of Hollywood is littered with names of people who had a hit but just couldn't keep a career going. But in this episode, I want to zoom in on what happened next. Because after A Star is Born, Jon stepped beyond Barbara's orbit and started a producing career of his own. And in very Jon Petersy fashion, one of his first major films without her was Caddyshack, a chaotic, almost feral, coke-fueled, vignette-driven comedy that by all logic shouldn't really have worked, and yet somehow became one of the most beloved cult comedies ever made. From there, Jon's career gathers momentum, and eventually he crosses paths with the man who will become one of the most important professional relationships of his life, Peter Guber. Now, Peter's another filmmaking legend who should have his own episode. But at the time, Peter was a rising star at Columbia Pictures who had struck out in his own very successful producing career and was, as the New York Times put it, one of the most brilliant men in Hollywood. So he saw something in Jon's boisterous belief that could complement his own ambitions, and together they formed Guber-Peters Entertainment, a partnership that would go on to define an era of 1980s filmmaking. And that slate reads like a highlight reel of some of the most interesting films of the decade. American Werewolf in London, Flashdance, The Color Purple, Gorillas in the Mist, Rain Man, and then Batman, which at the time became the highest grossing superhero film ever made and arguably kicked off the modern era of comic book movies. By some accounting, that movie made Warner Brothers around $2 billion, $2 billion in 1989. Jon and Peter had already the most lucrative deal in all of Hollywood at Warner Brothers, but they wanted more. So when Sony Electronics considered purchasing Columbia TriStar under the newly formed Sony Pictures banner, the duo helped orchestrate the deal and position themselves as the new co-chairman of Sony Pictures, a deal valued at nearly $5 billion that made them some of the most powerful business executives in America overnight. In this episode, we dig into that middle period of Jon's life, his rise as a producer in his own right, his unlikely creative chemistry with Peter Guber, and the way he worked with some of the greatest creative talents in the world, people like Tim Burton and Harold Ramis and Bill Murray. We also touch briefly on his early vision for Sony Pictures, what he imagined the studio could become, a vertically integrated media conglomerate with its own theme parks. A vision that wasn't too far-fetched considering Sony had all the elements that a company like Apple was able to put together years later: music publishing, entertainment, and electronics, all working together in a seamless entertainment ecosystem. It's an exciting look at what might have been, but we'll delve more into those years in future episodes. As always with Jon, the conversation isn't linear. It loops and it jumps decades. It's reflective and funny and contradictory, but it's honest. So this intro, like last time, it's the context, it's the map, the history lesson. And then the conversation itself with Jon is unfiltered and in his own words. So with that in mind, here's part 2 of my ongoing conversations with Jon Peters. Yeah. So yeah, last time we covered a lot of the your journey from starting as a hairdresser, then meeting Barbra Streisand, getting into producing movies. And what I'm really kind of interested in chatting about next is there's a period of time before you meet Peter Guber where you go and independently produce movies, or you produce them on your own, but you produce them with studios. And your first movie out of the gate after working with Barbara is Caddyshack, which
Right.
is pretty phenomenal as a new debut movie from a producer.
Yeah, especially because I had never done a comedy before. But I see. Look, my gift and is the gift of finding people far more talented than me and giving them a chance to do usually my vision or our vision and getting it done. And like with Tim Burton when we did Batman together. I remember Jim said to me, we were working on the movie, and he said to me, and it's true, he said, Jon, I just want you to know that I think you're too talented. And I said, what do you mean? Did you just have too many ideas? It's threatening to the director. And I said, well, that's probably why a lot of people didn't like me that much. So later on in life, like in Stars Born, Bradley Cooper. I had worked on that script for many, many, many years. And then this fella came in, Billy Gerber, who came in and was worked on the script and worked on the movie, did a really good job. But it was basically the movie that I and Barbara, we all created a long time ago. And then Bradley comes in, the genius of geniuses. Bradley is beyond maybe the best director in Hollywood, maybe one of the greatest actors. I mean, he's just an amazing guy. What he does and how he does it is fantastic. So we were lucky. We got it. We were aligned. The stars were aligned for us.
And then you produce the main event again with Barbara. And then your first movie on your own is then Caddyshack, which I think is interesting for two reasons. One is the way you approached it seems to be that you sort of did it as a bunch of vignettes. You know, you did it as little scenes all the way through. And the golf course was the backdrop that tied everything together. But also you had Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, who were sort of never in scenes together until you realized, oh God, we got to get these guys in a scene together because they sort of famously hated each other.
We've wrapped the movie, and I realized we didn't have a scene with the two of them, so I got them to write it. And I'm sure Billy was part of it. I know our director was a writer, and I gave him kind of a few ideas. Yeah, and one of the funny movies, yeah, listen, movies are all about vignettes for the story women between. So every vignette is some kind of a funny thing. So yeah, it's all there, and the movies are about endings. You have to walk out of that theater happy, laughing, crying, something, so you can tell people and get people to turn around and come back in again. So that's that. You know, I don't know why that I grew up with so old school, but it's just my instincts, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be 80 in a couple of months, and that's almost 100 years old, and that's a long time to be a gunslinger.
Yeah, there's still so much love for Caddyshack. I mean, you know, I know you've been talking about kind of trying to resurrect it and bringing it back for a new generation.
Everybody, it's golfing people love Caddyshack. I don't golf, but it's Rodney Dangerfield like you used to see on Johnny Carson show, and he would first time we met him, he came in and he came on the lot, and I was there with Mark Cannon, and he came in, and he had a little doctor's case, and he came in, he sat down on the couch with everybody, he opened it up, he put 2 or 3 lines of coke on the table, and he sniffed it up one by, and he went, ah, where's the pussy? Where's the pussy? And we were sitting with the head of the studio. It was like, then I couldn't find him, and we went into the bathroom, and all of a sudden he's in the urinal. He's standing on top of the urinal. I said, what are you doing? He said, I have to piss standing up, man. I have to piss standing up. He just standing on top of the toilet. So it was crazy times, yeah.
The Caddyshack set sounds like a pretty crazy place. You had Ron Dangerfield and
yeah.
Bill Murray, Chevy Chase. You know,
Yeah.
you were a notorious wild man. That must have been an incredible.
It was the nice thing about everything is Bill Murray, God love his soul, raw talent. Chevy, raw talent. Everybody on that show was raw. Harold Ramis, the director, who I love, and he was a hero. And Doug Kenny, who died in Hawaii in an accidental suicidal deal, or fell or tripped or something. I don't know, but he died. He was another wild talent. Everybody, yeah, they were all wild talents. You know, the people at the studio, knuckleheads, but we got it done. And then it was Orion, but the Warner Brothers, Mark Canton, brilliant talent. Terry Semel, Bob Daly, that whole Warner Brothers group, those were the best guys in Hollywood. And really, I owe them everything. And Mark Cannon, I'm hoping to work with him again and bring him into the AI business. So, yeah.
So after you do a few movies on your own, you then meet Peter Guber, who sort of undeniably becomes one of the largest professional relationships of your life, what did you guys see in each other? Because he was a studio guy. He had grown up through Columbia Pictures. You were now a very up and coming film producer on your own right. Um, you guys seem to complement each other, very similar to the Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer relationship. What did you see in each other that you think created that relationship?
Well, I had seen Peter around at parties because I was with Barbara, and we became friends. I had a ranch out in Barbara had a ranch out in Malibu, and he would come out there, and he loved horses, and he saw what we were doing, and then he went and did it at his house, in his backyard, and Peter and Linda were very, very, very creative people. Talented, imaginative, fun, creative.
What made you and Peter go, okay, I like you, I respect you, I see you at a party, and I think you're good or smart, and I like the movies you're doing. And then,
We watched each other,
yeah.
and I came there, and they wanted to hire me, and I said, "No, I want to be your partners." I said, "I'll build this into something really big." And we were with Peter and Paul Schaefer and Gil Siegel and whoever else I don't remember.
And that was Polygram, or
That was before anything.
right? Okay.
He had Polygram already. And I said to him, I wanna own the studio one day, Peter. I don't wanna run one, I wanna own one." And so we did the Sony deal. We owned part of it. It's 3.5% of it. It's a lot of money on a multi-billion-dollar company. And then he didn't say anything, and I said, "Do you want that?" And Paul Schaefer said, "No, he does. He wants it so much, he's afraid to say it." So, yeah, no, once we came together, it was very obvious what we do. He was a super agent, and I was a visualist. And he'd be on the phone, and I'd be creating and writing and smoking marijuana and, and chasing girls and raising my daughters and having a good time. I've had a good time my whole life.
And then you guys, your first movie together was American Werewolf in London, right?
First movie, if you say so. I don't remember, but I think it was, yeah.
And then you go on, you produce Flashdance, you produce a bunch of movies together under Guber-Peters.
Yeah.
I think it's the name makes me laugh because I think it's funny that you guys at some point were thinking of putting it the other way around. You just couldn't call it Peters Guber.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. I know. We should have, but we couldn't have.
Yeah, so you start Guber-Peters. You guys produce these iconic films. I mean, Flashdance, goes down in history. It's still referenced now. It's 2 Super Bowl ads from just last year reference the iconic splash scene. And then obviously you culminate with Batman. I mean, which is a huge swing. It was the second most performing movie at the box office in 1989, and it was the highest grossing superhero movie ever. And at that point, you guys are sort of really riding high. You've got a great lot deal at Warner Brothers. And then how does the opportunity to run what became Sony Pictures, but at that time was
Because
Claudius TriStar?
I didn't want to work for anybody. I wanted to own everything. I've been working. I didn't want. It was too smart. I was making money in the stock market. I wanted to buy something. I wanted to get money, and Peter did too. Listen, Peter is a genius. Peter is a brilliant man, and I owe him a lot. This man, many times, stood up for me and said to people that he forced down my throat, their throat. If he leaves, I leave. He was just fucking great. And at one time I did something that hurt his feelings, and I'm sorry for it, and I love him, and I one day would love to make up with him. But in any event, I needed someone to help put together all these deals. I had to deal with Walter Yetnikoff. Walter Yetnikoff ran Columbia CBS Records. Barbara was on CBS Records. I put together deals where she sold 50 million albums. Guilty album. A Star is Born, the 25 million. They made a fortune with me. And at that, prior to that, they couldn't get to her. She wouldn't answer anybody's phone call. She was a diva. She thought that Funny Girl was the best thing she ever did, and it was great, Funny Girl, everything she'd done. But Star is Born, writing, directing, producing, acting, that was the best, what she did.
Yeah, and like I mean, you and Peter. If I'm just going through the IMDb just to make sure I don't miss anything, but your guys' collaboration together was American Werewolf in London, The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper. I mean, and there are other ones that I'm skipping. I'm just hitting the really like the iconic ones: Flashdance, Vision Quest, Clue, which may not be a classic, but I loved. I
Yeah.
grew up watching Clue and loved it.
Yeah. It did.
Youngblood, The Witches of Eastwick, Inner Space, Who's That Girl, the great Madonna film, 1987, Caddyshack 2, Gorillas in the Mist, and then culminating in Batman. I mean, that's, in terms of a run of pictures together, that's unbelievable.
Yes, and the point is that when we did Batman, when Peter and I got involved in Batman, I wanted to make a trilogy because I was a George Lucas freak. I loved George Lucas. I love what he did. I have to stay careful because of my reputation. People are scared of me. But I just would love to go out. I'm going to be 80 in a couple of months, and I'd love to be able to go out with a big one.
I mean, just in terms of, you and Peter working that hard and that closely together, what does it feel like with a partner that you're doing this incredibly difficult thing with, you're having all this success with? What does that feel like to have a success the size of Batman together and then get the opportunity to start running a studio together? I mean, it must feel like, obviously there's a big task ahead, but it must also feel like a bit of a celebration, like you've arrived.
One of the things that we did is we didn't get the opportunity, we created it.
Right.
So I have been working on this idea for 20 years. I was working on this idea when I told him one day we'll get a studio. Well, it's happened, just like I said it would. Exactly like I said it would. And it felt amazing. There's a picture of Peter and I where he literally jumps in the air with the Academy Award. And I'm holding him. I think maybe that was Rain Man or Color Purple, one of them, but I was holding him and we were holding each other. It felt beautiful. It was my male love affair. I mean, he was a wonderful guy, and he looked after me, and he helped me as things I didn't know. It was good.
Yeah, because you went to Sony and you sort of had an immediate win with Rayman. I mean, that won the Best Picture Oscar your first year at Sony, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. But you guys had developed it before, is that right?
Oh, we had developed it for 5 years, yeah. Yeah, we had all kinds of we had all kinds of different people in Rain Man. And it was like I said, it was 600 million. It was a big hit. Those two guys were great actors, great characters. Everywhere I go, I wear all these movies as a badge of honor. And the nice thing is, it's like Dana White says, he thinks that everybody in America's kids should learn to do karate or jiu-jitsu or MMA, because if you know how to fight, you're fine. And all of my kids, I taught how to fight. And Peter was a great fighter. I really, honestly, even though the ending was not exactly the way I wanted it, the results are more than fantastic. That I miss with Peter. I wish that we, to be quite candid, we don't really talk because something, he's upset about, but it's fine. It's all good.
But you miss him.
Oh, sure. He was a fantastic asset, man. In other words, if I wanted to get something done in Saudi Arabia, I could lay the whole thing out and he'd go there and get it done. I don't like to make the deals. I can see it, watch it, do it, put it together, but I don't like to be. Also, my personality is such where I offend people sometimes. And my daughter Kaylee, sure, Dad, you do. Oh, yes, you do. I have to fix everything, Dad. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, if you're, I mean, are you tired? Do you want to finish up?
If I feel finished, sure. Okay. Otherwise, she don't give me that look.
Well, I'd love to. I mean, if you'd be willing, I'd love to talk about the Sony time with Peter.
If you want.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I think you had, in just our talks now, you really kind of wanted to kind of really grow it out in, in all of the different.
Sony land.
Yeah, that you wanted to kind of, I bought a bunch of.
Rita come out from China, come up to my house in Beverly Park with Marita, Olga, that other guy that's friendly with Peter, I forgot his name, and Peter and our group, I guess. And he said, why do we want to do this to me? He asked me. And I said, Sonyland, I want to build an empire of imagination. And there's nobody doing it but Walt Disney. I want to do it. And he left and went to do the deal, and they did the deal. Peter doesn't even know that. That's absolutely what I just told you is like the God's honest truth, and it's big news, but it's the truth. They needed a reason. And now the other side of it, the people below him, they thought I was going to bankrupt the company.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like Sony was uniquely poised to take advantage of the fact that, I mean, something that iTunes did so many years later, Sony had the music business. It had the film business. It had this sort of ability to cross-pollinate.
Yeah, well, what I call that in our own business stuff is critical mass. They had a critical mass. And the theme parks and Michael Jackson, if he had stayed alive, and all the creative talents that I wanted to put together, we would have built theme parks that were futuristic. See, Disney is pretty much today, but we would build something really into tomorrow. Let's build these parks. Let's do these things. See, we're at the beginning again of everything. I've never been at the beginning. I always came in the third act or something.
Yeah, and I think that's becoming possible.
Yes, such a big, that's the point. I dream it up and you guys figure out how to get it done. But
JP, thanks so much, man. This is, I love doing this.
Yeah. It's just, you have what you want.
Yeah.